On this episode, Dude and JD welcome in High West as we crack open their 2025 Prisoner Share and BouRye offerings. So sit back, grab a pour, kick up your feet, and enjoy this episode of The Bourbon Hunters.
It's time to unwind, drinking our bottles, all that we find. With tastings and tales, we're sharing our pours. Tune in each week, there will always be more. Tune in each week, there's lots to hear. Laughter and stories, we're all here to share. We're giving our ratings, they're always fair. Sit back, grab a pour, kick up your feet and enjoy.
While you're listening, head over to our website at bourbonhunters.com where you can purchase Bourbon Hunters glassware and products, and sign up for our Patreon, which puts you on the list for single barrel announcements from our private barrel club.
Tune in each week, sit back. Tune in each week, grab a pour. Tune in each week, kick up your feet and enjoy. Kick up your feet and enjoy.
Welcome to another episode of the Bourbon Hunters. I'm Dude Porn. I'm joined by
JD Friches.
And today we have quite the treat. We've got High West on with us today. I'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Hi there, my name is Tara Lindley. I'm Director of Sensory and New Product Development for High West.
Well, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
Thank you.
I do want to get into like your history with the company and all that, but at the same time, in front of us today, we've got, JD brought some stuff, but we have the BouRye, we have this year's Prisoner Share, and then JD brought Midwinter's Night Dram and another Prisoner Share, and then a cask collection, it looks like. I don't think we're going to get through all that this evening. I think someone was being a little bit ambitious. But that being said, so before we get into all this, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you to High West and your journey in whiskey.
Sure. So I guess it started back with, college. I got my degree in biochemistry. From there, I ended up working in the wine industry for 8 years and got to a point where my husband and I wanted to move to a mountainous area. So we thought, okay, over the next couple of years, we'll look at what kinds of opportunities there are and kind of explore, and ended up stumbling across this job posting for High West in early 2016. And by March 2016, I had shifted from wine to whiskey. And so from there, I just spent a lot of time, tasting through all of the individual lots and, all of the different components that we use for our whiskeys, and worked really closely with our master distiller to learn how we blend for consistency, how we blend to highlight specific nuances, how we can use and leverage different flavor profiles for our products.
That's awesome. I think it seems pretty common. A lot of people are getting into whiskey sometimes, like coming from wine, it feels like. Mm-hmm. That seems to be a pretty natural, evolution of career from wine people, it seems like. Did that have any part in creation of things like Prisoner Share and stuff like that, doing any finishes and different things?
So with my experience in the wine industry, I did have exposure to a bunch of different varietals that we hadn't used in our barrel finishing program yet. So that would be, more for our single barrel select or VIP barrel program. And, as we got into the Prisoner Share, that really stemmed from the fact that, Constellation Brands owns the Prisoner Share as well, and so we wanted to do a collaboration with them, utilize their wine barrels and put our whiskey in those wine barrels. So that's really where that came from.
Nice. So what? Let's introduce this BouRye, I guess. This one is the 25 A24. So I'm assuming that's the year, then the month, and then I don't know what the 24 is, but I'll let you go ahead and introduce that real quick.
That would be bottled on January 24th, 2025.
Gotcha. So that's the date.
Fun little note there.
Okay.
The first number is the last 2 digits of the year. The letter is the alphanumeric TTB coding for the month. So A is January, and then the last 2 digits are the day of the month. But BouRye this year, I'm actually really excited about what we did with BouRye this year. So BouRye is always a minimum of 10-year-old. So it's these older, chewy, rich, assertive whiskeys. On this year, we did 10 to 19-year-old, and that range always changes because what I love about BouRye as a limited release is that it's one that we can play with the flavor profile from year to year and kind of highlight and capitalize on these different nuances between different whiskeys that we have to work with in our portfolio. Also notable, BouRye has gone back national this year. We did pull that back to distillery only for a couple of years, but we're excited that now everyone in the U.S. gets to experience it again, I guess more easily than flying out to Utah, but we still want you guys to come out to visit us.
Sure. So what's the batch size in something like this now that you've gone back national with it?
So it still is pretty limited, but definitely not. Definitely trying to keep that on a more reserved scale without blowing it up to some of our more readily available blends like the double rye or the bourbon. We do have, when we are talking about a minimum 10-year-old in our inventory, we do have limited volumes of whiskey that are available that meet that criteria to, make that criteria for BouRye. And so we are often working with, what's available in our inventory to, so that limited number kind of bounces around a little bit from year to year.
Sure. Makes sense. So as we're talking about this, JD, you want to give a little bit of a nose and then I'll follow up? I know you've had a chance to kind of...
Yeah, it's got a rich, dense nose to it. It's kind of buttery. I get little hints of like cinnamon sugar. Definitely get some of that oak. Yeah, it's really inviting.
The buttery, I definitely get that. That's almost the first thing that hits me. And then as I dig a little bit more into it... and just kind of let the nose kind of have its way. I do get some of the cinnamon, like baking spices maybe. I am getting some oak for sure. I went ahead and took a drink while you guys were talking.
Oh, you jumped ahead.
Couldn't wait. I needed to get something past the visceral reaction for the day. So.
And what's the story with the jackalope?
Yeah.
So the jackalope. So let's back up to BouRye as a whole and what that is. So BouRye is a blend of bourbon and rye, and majority bourbon, minority rye. But it's my understanding that when BouRye was first produced, and I think it was 2011, that we were the first ones to be blending bourbon and rye as finished whiskeys or aged whiskeys together to blend for a product. And so I think there was a lot of reaction to, what do you mean you're blending bourbon and rye together? And then, we have the jackalope, which is this, kind of mythical creature, but maybe it exists. I might have seen one on my camping trip last weekend, but no one really knows. And so, we like to think that the two kind of go hand in hand, that, yes, of course, we can do something as fun as blending bourbon and rye together. And yes, of course, there may or may not be a jackalope in the deserts of Utah.
Well, I have noticed it has... The idea of blending bourbon and rye whiskey together has seemed to, I wouldn't say it's like crazy popular, but I've seen other places starting to do it now. Mm-hmm. I know I saw something on the shelf just the other day, and I meant to write it down, but I was in a hurry and forgot. But I've seen a couple of places do.
Knob Creek came out with one.
That was the one I saw that actually surprised me. I think it says bourbon plus rye or something like that on it.
Well, High West has trademarked the BouRye name, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I mean, if you say it with enough conviction.
Right. Well, right. John Wadle is experimenting at Peerless with making some bourbon and rye combinations.
Yeah.
I know that.
I was going to say that, but I didn't know if that was actually like an official product. I know that we had tasted some experimental stuff. So
yeah, it's experimental. It's not public yet.
But it's a neat idea. And every time I've had the BouRye from High West, I've always been pleasantly surprised. I'm not a big rye whiskey person, but I do like high rye bourbons. So, I mean, this kind of, when you blend those together, you're going to get, in my opinion, something very similar to a high rye bourbon. And with this, I think you get all of the good things that I do like when I get a rye whiskey that I like, combined with the things that you get from a bourbon. So, this is, not as much jackalope as mythical, because it is actually good. In my opinion. So I do think this is a really good product. Last year when I had the BouRye, the batch from last year, I really, really enjoyed that.
I enjoyed that, but I felt like it drank a little under its proof point. And I feel like this one drinks right at it or slightly above it.
So
and I think
Go ahead.
one of the things that plays into that is that with this year, we played with that ratio of bourbon to rye a little bit more, and we increased our ratio of rye to bring a little bit more of that rye spice botanical character forward.
I noticed that.
And I think that kind of plays on the ethanol a little bit too when you get the rye spice there. So that's one of the things that I absolutely love about this release, because I really love rye personally, and so I kind of like that assertive spiciness punching through that rich, chewy bourbon character.
Well, and it's funny because when I do find a rye that I like, a rye whiskey, I should say, it is that spiciness that always gets my attention. That's what I like about it. What I generally don't. What is it that I don't like when I have a rye whiskey?
He doesn't like dill.
It's funny because I love dill pickles. I eat them, have no problem with it. But when it's in my whiskey, for whatever reason, I'm not a big fan. So whenever I find a rye whiskey that I truly like, it doesn't have that overwhelming dill characteristic. And this obviously doesn't have it, that mixture of the bourbon and the rye. But it does bring forward that spiciness that you were talking about, which is what I think really makes it appeal to me. So it's bringing out those rye characteristics that I do like, but it's also bringing in those traditional bourbon notes as well. Like you talked about, that butteriness that I get a little bit now that I'm drinking a little bit more of this. I get a little bit more of the kind of the brown sugars and vanillas. They're a little distant, but they're there. And then that spiciness from the rye is really nice on this batch.
There's a little bubble gum on it too.
Are you getting some? I haven't gotten there yet. Nothing.
Another fun note is that we do have our own High West own make rye as part of that rye portion as well. So, I think this is the third year in a row that we've been able to incorporate High West rye into this blend.
Oh, nice.
Because we've actually had rye that's old enough to be 10 years old finally.
Oh, that's good.
That is fantastic.
I'm getting a little bit of the confectioner sugar you were talking about. Yeah. If that's what you meant by bubblegum. So do you talk about the ratios like batch to batch, or is that trade secret, or how is that as far as revealing that kind of information?
Yeah. The actual ratios are trade secret, but we do like to talk about it in terms of, a little bit more rye this year, a little bit less rye, more bourbon this year. And even talk about our mash bills. With this release as well, we use some of that MGP 36% rye, so the higher rye bourbon mash bill. And we've used that in some previous releases as well, but that was one of the unique characters here that I think also elevates that rye character coming through.
No, that's nice. Yeah, this has a really good. I think I like this one better than last year.
I do.
Yeah. And I think it's that little bit of the baking spice, the spiciness that's coming through. And the more that I sit with this, I don't think it's drinking to its proof as much as that spiciness is kind of giving it that feeling.
Yeah, that finish
it doesn't
is
taste like
spectacular.
ethanol. It tastes like actual rye spice, and it's really coming through nice. It is a really good flavor. I do like this. I know last year's bottle is no longer. So I was kind of kicking myself that I didn't keep enough around for that to compare this year's with that. But that's what happens when you create a good product. It doesn't last very long.
So I recently signed up for the High West Club to be able to get releases before they go out, or have early access.
So how does that work?
To releases.
Do you have like information on that?
There's only a limited number, I think, that can be accessed through that club. But
okay. I feel like a lot of places are starting to do that now, having their own little private club that allows people to have early access to certain releases and things. I wonder if that's a way to kind of help mitigate all the lines and the people camping out and stuff before big releases and stuff. But that's awesome. I know you always get Midwinter Night Dram.
Always.
Every year I feel like you get that. I don't know how you get it.
It's one of my favorites.
No, I know it is. That and Prisoner Share. So that's why you're here tonight, buddy. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about just kind of High West in general. I want to get to the Prisoner Share, and I want to get to that kind of soon, just
Okay.
because that's always a favorite of mine too. But with their Prisoner Share, like I've told you many times, I'm not a huge fan of like finished whiskeys, but I've really enjoyed that. And it's just sitting there so dark and rich looking that I can't wait to have a taste of that. So what was the proof on this BouRye? You looked at it, I didn't.
Was it 98?
92.
You're way off.
Way off. Yeah, it was a 46.
92. All right. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm going to say that for a 92, to kind of go the opposite of what you were saying, I almost feel like it punches way above its proof point in a good way. Like not in an ethanol way, but in like the spiciness, the characteristics of it. I feel like I'm drinking something maybe just a touch over 100 proof, but it doesn't taste like ethanol. I want to be clear on that. It's lingering. It's got a great finish. Something I would expect of a 100 plus type, whiskey. So yeah,
It definitely noses like an older whiskey. There's definitely like nice leather on.
Oh, the
that,
age is
and-
for sure
yeah.
present. Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. So let's talk about Prisoner Share. I want to like a little bit of a history lesson on the Prisoner Share. So I'm going to pour this into the glass while you talk about Prisoner Share, and then this is
Such a nice color.
it is a nice color. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I keep
So
babbling
what you're
on.
pouring right now is our third release of the Prisoner Share. And as I mentioned earlier, we have partnered with the Prisoner Share that we get some of their red wine barrels from their red wine blend, the Prisoner. We use that. We develop a new to world blend every year, which I'll talk about in a little bit more detail in just a moment, to finish our whiskey in. Additionally, I also want to mention that the Prisoner Wine Company will get some of our whiskey barrels and they age their wine in it, and they create a wine called Complicit, which they release around the same time that we are coming out with our Prisoner Share. And so the collaboration is two-sided there, which is a really fun offering. And we did just release this Prisoner Share a few weeks ago, and we were able to pour some of that red wine blend at the dinner as well, which was wonderful. And the sensory notes on both the red wine and our red wine finished whiskey they have some similarities and parallels along the way, which I think is really fun, with notes of pomegranate and cranberry and cinnamon that come across in both the wine and the whiskey. The whiskey base, it changes every year. It is a majority bourbon, but it does contain a healthy amount of rye, more than you will perceive in our BouRye. That changes every year. It does contain high West rye, minimum 4-year-old, but this release is up to 12 years old as well.
Oh, wow.
And what's unique about this particular release that you're tasting right now is that this was the first time that we utilized a 60% corn and 40% rye mash bill from Bardstown Bourbon Company in our release, and actually the first time we had used it at all as an aged whiskey. And the other fun thing that's unique about this release is that we have finishing times that range from 7 months to 2.5 years. And so typically with our first two releases, we had more exact times for all of the lots that were in that. It was, closer to, 9 months to a year. But with this, we had kind of planned in advance and wanted to try some different things. We're always experimenting here at High West and have a lot of things going that sometimes, make their way into different releases. But so that gave us a little bit more variety and flavor profile to play with when we were putting the blend together and looking at the impact of those red wine barrels on, the whiskey blend that we had put into them.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I almost don't want to drink it. The nose on this is so ridiculous. It is so good. I've been nosing this while you were talking, and you're 100% spot on with the influence of the red wine barrels, or the red wine, finish. This is the nose on this is ridiculous.
It's really complex.
I've never felt so much complexity in a nose before. Like honestly, this is crazy. Like this is the nose. I want to drink it, but I almost don't want to drink it. I don't want to be let down. Not that it would let me down, but the nose is so good. My gosh. And let's talk about the color of this thing, man. It is so rich, and it's got like a little bit of a red hue to the darkness. Like, it's sitting beside the High West Bourbon, which the High West Bourbon has a good color to it. It's sitting, close to the BouRye, which has a little bit more darkness to it, and the Midwinter Night's Dram has a little bit more darkness than that. But this is so dark. This is so dark, and it's rich, and it has just a slight red hue to it. The nose, I'll tell you, what are you getting on the nose? There's so much going on there. I don't even know where to begin.
I'm getting like apricots, some
dark fruit, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe like a berry compote reduction.
All right. Is this a story time for back when you were a child and your grandmother and mom were cooking in the kitchen?
Well, they didn't never cook together. They were always fighting if that was going on.
Oh, okay.
But my grandma wanted control.
Yeah. Well, as grandma should. They know what they're doing. They've been doing it longer. Oh, man. That is good. Wow.
It's super rich. It's also delicate. It's
There's a lot happening. So I talk all the time about bourbons and whiskeys that I can sit with all evening long because they can kind of tell a story. And what I mean by that is just each drink or each glass that you pour tells you something a little bit different just because it evolves as the evening progresses. And this is something that falls in that category for me. Those are almost always my favorite types of whiskey to sit down with for an evening. And holy cow.
It doesn't taste like syrup, but it feels like syrup on your tongue.
The mouth experience on this is ridiculous. It's got a lot of viscosity to it. There's a nice butteriness to it that sticks to the tongue.
Yeah, definitely.
It hangs out on the mid-tongue for a nice amount of time. That delicateness.
The mid is the biggest punch on that.
Yeah, agreed. And that what you were talking about with the delicate, I kind of get that on the front of the tongue, but it also kind of lingers on the middle of the tongue as well. This could almost be like a cigar blend type too. Like I know it's only one finish like red wine, but my gosh, it is so rich.
It probably pairs really well with a cigar, to be honest.
That's what I'm saying. Like this is really good. It's got delicate notes. It's got very, very rich, like in your face notes too.
Dark cherry notes.
Yeah, the dark fruits and the dark cherry and I think all of that just really, really, really explodes on the tongue and just. I feel like you could drink this with a lot of different things. You could drink this with a steak. You could drink this with, a cigar. You could just sit down and drink this with nothing if you wanted to. This is really, really good.
Yeah,
I'm blabbering on.
And you pick up on that. Was it 60% corn? That sweetness on it too.
Yeah, I mean the sweetness from the bourbon is there. The little bit of spiciness from some rye is there. The red wine, which this is generally what makes it or breaks it for me on a red wine finish, the tannins. So the tannins are there, but it's not like I don't feel like I'm licking a sponge. Like
right.
It's not drying my mouth. I feel like it makes me want to take another drink. It doesn't make me think, okay, I need some water. Where's the water? It's actually making me want to take another drink.
So for me, with wine finished whiskeys, which I'm a huge fan of, I like port finished wine or whiskeys as well. But what I think High West has an advantage over some of the others is you own a Prisoner, right?
That's right.
So you don't have to import that with sulfur, in the barrels to preserve the barrel. So you're not getting any sulfur. It's all just rich wine flavor finish.
Wow, look at the legs on this.
Precisely. Yeah, we ensure, and that's what I love about partnering with our internal wineries is that we really have, great communication and control over how those barrels are treated after they dump the wine out of them so that when we get them for whiskey, we know that they're the best quality. And, I love the barrels that we get internally. They have the most beautiful, bright, fruit character that comes through. And they're just my favorite finishing barrels to source.
Now, we the people, are we allowed to know if those barrels are dry or if they're wet when the whiskey goes in?
We the people.
Well, they are fresh dumped, and so
okay.
We'll dump them over in California, send them over on a truck to Utah, which usually just takes, a day or so, and then we'll nose them and our team will get them filled. So we're looking at, no more than a week generally between dumping and refilling. And in fact, our barrels for our next round of the Prisoner Share deliver tomorrow. So tomorrow morning, my team and I will be nosing the next round of the Prisoner barrels to get ready for next year's release.
So talk about that process. What is that like? Like, how do you go about that process of receiving the barrels, deciding if maybe a barrel doesn't belong or does belong? Like, how do you know ahead of time what to include with the aging of the whiskey? Like,
is there a team of sommeliers?
It's my sensory team and our blending team and some of our distilling team, when they're on site, are looking at the barrels, and we're all getting our noses on them. And so, the interesting thing about each of us as individuals and with sensory is that we all have different sensitivities, and we all have a unique genetic makeup that codes for how we perceive sensory. And so, my colleague might be very sensitive to sulfur, but another one of them might not be. And so, getting a variety of noses on those barrels to make sure that, there's no sulfur or acetone or VA, volatile acidity, on any of those. We don't want any of those notes. So if anyone perceives something off with a barrel, we'll kick it out and, fill all the rest of the barrels with our whiskey.
So how often does that happen? How often do you kick a barrel out of the program, or just reject a barrel in general like that?
So honestly, with our internal barrels, it's pretty rare. It's probably 1% or less. For our external barrels that we source from other brokers, it's about 20%, which is a staggering number.
That is, yeah.
But that is the extent to which we are very particular about the barrels that we're filling to ensure that we're only filling the highest quality finishing barrels.
That's impressive. Actually, I mean, impressive that the number that gets rejected is that high. That I didn't expect it to be that high of a number. So that's. I mean, it doesn't surprise me because of how good this tastes, because they must be only taking the best barrels. But that's, man, I still can't get past. This is like blowing me away. I don't remember when you brought yours last year. I don't remember it tasting quite this good. So I want to go up against this and see how this tastes this year compared to the one you have. This is really good. This is making me rethink my wine finished whiskey stance. So this is good.
So when you kick them out, wouldn't it hurt less to roll them out? I mean, they're heavy.
You're an idiot. My God.
Yes, our blending team has got that methodology for the SOP for rolling out all the barrels that we dismissed.
You can tell he's a dad. That was a dad joke. Oh my gosh. Wow. All right. So I want to do, while we're on this, let's do. I guess I'll pour your bottle. That's fair. Right.
Everybody knows I pour heavy.
You do, and I wasn't going to be upset about it if it's anything like this last one.
Pour how you want.
Oh, look how you kept the.
I kept the medallion.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to pour in a little bit here. I don't want to cash your bottle. No, come on. That's plenty. So this is not last year's, right? 2 years ago?
I think, yeah.
So this is the 23. We still don't know which letter this is for sure. It looks like a K to me, but 23K01 maybe. So it's either K01 or H01, but I don't know that H01 was legitimate. It's rubbed off. There's been a lot of handling of this bottle, it seems, and it's almost empty, so that makes sense. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This one, I will say right away, is not nearly as rich in color as the one we just had. The one we just had, what was it, a 101 proof? Or 102?
I think they're both the same.
102. Are they both 102? Okay.
Both 102.
Is that, so that's just a decision, always 102 for Prisoner Share?
So that was a decision we made with the first release. And, we went through the exercise of evaluating it at a bunch of different proofs all the way up to, probably, I don't know, north of 105, maybe 107, down to 100 to see where it sat the best. And that seems to be consistent year to year.
Have you tried it at cask strength?
Well, at cask strength, no, because the whiskey is proofed down before it goes into the wine barrels.
Oh, that's nice. So you're not adding anything to it after the fact.
Well, we do proof it down again. It's
okay.
kind of a
They've got
two-step
to get
process.
Yeah, it's going to change it while it's aging. They've got to get it to that 102. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be a pretty amazing ability if they can figure out that it's going to come out at 102 after they've aged it in the wine barrels.
But with this particular one, we sat with the 102 because we felt like it was the right place to plan so that we get the best of a little more assertiveness from that ethanol coming through, but also balance out the red wine character and not overpower it. In addition to looking at how our bourbon and rye ratios play on each other. So kind of all of those elements came into consideration as we looked at that.
You have some left? Oh, you have some left. I'm not pouring any more. What are you doing? Although it's your bottle, I'm not worried about it. All right, so let's dive into this.
When I
real quick
go
while you're
back
talking.
and forth, the mine from a couple years ago, it's not as rich.
The nose isn't. The new nose, the nose on this year's blows most noses I've had recently away, and that finish, you can tell that's where it's coming from. But man, that is so rich compared to. I mean, this is a good nose. The one from 23 is a good nose, but this one from 25 is just so rich.
It's elevated.
Yeah, elevated. That's a good word. Look at you bringing good words.
Surprised me too.
I mean, that's good. That's really good.
Still has a creamy mouthfeel.
It does.
You still get that influence. Yeah.
I mean, there's still. This is good. I think this year's is better. But I can see where it's definitely got some consistency to it. So a lot of the same notes are there. A lot of the same, like the mouth feeling, the mouth experience, all that, the coating of the tongue. The nose is a little muted on this one compared to this year's.
Could be how long it's been open though too.
Yeah, maybe. But I'll say there's consistency there. So like that the Prisoner wine that you are using, I feel like there's just something extra on this one. There's a sweetness that finishes the nose, if that makes sense. Like there's a finish to the nose, which
that's actually a pretty good analogy. A finish to the nose. I haven't heard that before.
Well, this has a good nose, but then this one has a good nose, and there's almost like a creamy finish to it in the nose, which is weird. I
love that.
Maybe I need to trim my nose hairs. I don't know.
A nose that has a finish.
I mean, seriously, there's an interesting creamy nose finish to it. Like I know that feels weird or sounds weird, but
well, he would love this, James.
Yeah. Well, and then Brett with the people schnoz. Yeah, there's just something about the nose. You're right. Elevated is the best word for it. This year's version of the Prisoner's Share is elevated from a nose. I think it's elevated all around, to be honest. I think what you're doing is getting better.
And that's probably through experience. You're
that's
doing things to enhance and make it better.
Yeah, I mean the first. Well, I don't know if this is the first one, but the one from 23 is it's good, but I feel like it's almost like you've learned how to make it better because this one is much better. Holy cow! I'm going to drink the one from 23 before I go back to the 25. Finish it on a good note.
I actually have a little bit left of a Bardstown Prisoner finish.
Oh yeah, they did. That's right. Mm-hmm. Forgot about that.
Oh, that's right. We did do that. Yeah.
You did 2 variations of it with Bardstown Bourbon Company, and I have the first release of it, which I've been nursing. It's really good.
Yeah, I what's interesting is I feel like I haven't had a bad batch from High West. I haven't had a bad batch from Bardstown Bourbon Company, so that collaboration kind of seems like just a natural, What was that? Your water bottle?
Yeah.
Making noises?
Air induction.
Yeah, apparently. It sounded like it was whining. But no, I think that's a natural combination of good brands. I feel like because Bardstown Bourbon Company, what they're producing is outstanding, and you're using that a little bit. It sounds like.
That's right.
And I don't know. That's a good marriage, in my opinion.
Are you fully exclusive your own product these days?
No, they just told you they were using Bardstown Bourbon Company.
Well, in that finish, but for your own, like for your just shelfers, your
gotcha. Yeah.
rendezvous ryes and double rye.
Finish the question next time.
He finished it for me.
So, we do have a few of our products that are 100% High West, like our High Country Single Malt and our Bottled and Bond. But for the majority of our portfolio, we're always going to source whiskeys from other producers.
Okay.
And that just allows us to, leverage other flavor profiles and mash bills that we can to derive really innovative and unique blends. But we're really excited also to be, we've been incorporating our High West Rye into a lot of these blends for a long time. And very soon we'll have our High West Bourbon as well, which we will have a High West Bourbon Bottled and Bond coming out in the near future,
Nice.
which is an exciting little plug I can share with you.
Yeah, thank you.
In the near future, you'll start seeing High West Bourbon incorporated, our own make bourbon incorporated into some of our own products as well, now that it's old enough.
So the Bottled and Bond, that'll be your make?
That's correct, yes.
Oh, that's awesome. I love Bottled and Bond, first off. So that's a perfect drinking proof point, in my opinion. And that's exciting. So that's cool. Let's talk, unless you have more to share, let's talk about Protect the West initiative and your partnership or collaboration, if you will, with Luke Grimes.
Sure. So back in 2022, High West launched the Protect the West initiative, and that was intended as an objective to protect the West, the wildlife, the land, and the communities that live in the West. And just recently, just a few days ago, we announced our partnership with Luke Grimes. He is an actor on Yellowstone, a musician, an avid outdoorsman, and a whiskey enthusiast. He spent a lot of time at our saloon when he was filming some scenes of Yellowstone. So I hear, when he was out in Park City. So he just seemed like a natural partner to help us take this to the next phase and go from there. And our power just went out.
I see
so
that. I saw the lights just went out on you. I was reading a couple of different things, and it sounds like he was already a fan of High West to begin with. So it sounds like it was more of a natural, collaboration together between the two of you. So talk about a little bit more in detail what that, Protect the West initiative is all about.
Sure. So the Protect the West has kind of three parts to it. First of all, we have our Wildland Firefighter Foundation, and that's where we are dedicated to helping families of firefighters killed in the line of duty as they're trying to protect from fire.
Sure.
We also have the Protect Our Winters, which is an organization dedicated to protecting the West from climate change, and then the American Prairie, which is the largest land reserve for wildlife in the contiguous United States. I believe that's up in Montana. And so we have those kind of three focuses where we have dedicated to, donate $1 million across those organizations over 3 years since 2022.
Oh, wow. That's substantial. That's awesome. So one of the things I've noticed is watching the show Yellowstone, he was one of my favorite characters, first off. But I felt like Yellowstone as a whole, the TV show, I felt like was trying to tell the story of the West and the Northwest and just the importance of keeping, the land preserved and different things like that. So it only seems natural that he would, combine up or collaborate and join up with a foundation like that. So that's really cool. I love hearing about people, people and organizations that are joining together to do something to help protect the land. I mean, as the show Yellowstone, if you ever watched it, it was very big on fighting the development of natural land and all those types of things, and with the Native Americans and the people that living there joining together to try to protect that land. And I thought that was a great story. I mean, obviously the drama and the what is it, Sheridan, what's his name, Taylor Sheridan?
I don't know, I didn't watch
anyway,
Yellowstone.
Whoever helped write it, he does all the other shows. Pretty much every show you've ever watched, he pretty much writes. But I just loved the highlight of protecting the land and just kind of making the developers look like the bad guys, And so I think that's a cool focus in trying to protect land, trying to protect, listen, I don't want to get on a soapbox. I've already kind of halfway stepped on the soapbox, but it's always neat to me to see people when they have money, when they have success, give back to things. But when I see it be kind of protecting environment and things like that, I think that's amazing. So I think that's a cool story. I think that's a cool organization, and I think that's a great initiative to get started. So if I haven't made it clear, I'm supporting this because I don't know. I went to Montana with my wife in October for a wedding, and it was just amazing. Like to see the lack of light pollution when you're out in a place like that, and go up into the mountains and see just nature, just in everything that it has to offer. And then you come back to a place like Columbus, Ohio, and you're just like, wow, it's crazy. The difference between a city like Columbus, Ohio, and then going out to Montana and seeing just nature in general, just being the forefront, like, and being, it's a completely different culture. Out there, they recognize and they understand that they are surrounded by nature.
Yeah.
Here, they could care less. And I think that it's amazing that, when you see organizations and companies trying to protect that. So,
well, my career, I take care of a golf course, so I deal with people who are all the time saying you're taking up valuable land and there should be developments, or there should be for business, or and they just want to get rid of golf courses because they don't feel like it serves a purpose. But there's an ecosystem out there.
Yeah. There's
an animal sanctuary out there, and they don't get it.
I agree. So kudos to you for supporting that type of initiative. I think that's awesome. I think if you've ever had a chance to travel out to a place like that and just kind of see what it is, I mean, if you're surrounded, and I'm guilty of it myself, but I live in a big city. Like, I'm surrounded by noise pollution, light pollution, all that kind of stuff. And then when I went to Montana, it was eye-opening. It was crazy. So, like, watching a show like Yellowstone, going out to Montana, seeing things like that, seeing nature, seeing, like, just being able to kind of reconnect with the world and just the earth, it just kind of resets everything. And knowing that or other organizations and companies like yourselves are doing stuff to help preserve that, I think, to me, kind of reestablishes my faith in humanity, if you will, and not to understate it, but or overstate it, I guess. But no, that's awesome. I have a tendency to just kind of get ramble on and just, but I love it. I love that. I think that's an awesome initiative, and I'm glad that you guys are doing that. That's so great.
Thanks. And, I'm really proud to be a part of a company that cares to give back in that way. So, it's important to me as well. Good.
I mean, obviously you guys are heading it up, but, man, I can't get over this Prisoner Share. That's really good. I just came back to it. I picked up my glass again, and it's so good. So that being said, I know we talked about the initiative itself. Obviously, Luke Grimes is a pretty popular, famous celebrity. I know earlier we had talked about offline before we came on the show, a way that you could follow along with that and everything. What is a way that you can follow that on social media?
So you can follow that at Drink High West on Instagram. And in fact, there was a post just the other day kind of announcing that partnership. So that would be kind of the first one to go look for. I think that was released on June 20th. So Drink High West on Instagram.
Cool.
Awesome. So Drink High West on Instagram. Follow them just for the whiskey, first off. And then secondly, or whatever your priorities are. Firstly, for the environmental stuff or whatever.
I've got your head nosing note for this year's Prisoner.
What is it?
New York cheesecake.
New York cheesecake.
I'm dead
All
New
serious.
York cheese.
No, I'm not even kidding. It's cheesecake.
For the nose? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I'm not saying you're wrong. There's so much going on this nose.
It's a cheesecake, I swear to God.
Now you've swayed me because I
That's
wasn't thinking that at all, but now I could see that.
It just, as soon as I picked it up again, I went back to it. It hit me.
I'll tell you what, man. It's such a layered nose. This is probably the most in your face nose I've ever had.
I think you'll get something different if you sit down and come back to it again.
Yeah, I 100% agree. This is really good. Let's talk about. I know. Do you have a time constraint at all? Like, I know we're 46 minutes into recording. I was gonna let him talk about Midwinter Night's Dram because I know that's one of his.
Last time we were on, I brought 2 years ago. This is last year's. This one would be Act 12.
Act 12. Okay.
I know you weren't prepared
scenes
for this. This wasn't one of the things we were going to talk about, but he brought his duffel bag of like 20 whiskeys.
As far as I understand, the scenes, do they really matter, or is that just the day of bottling?
It is the day of bottling.
Okay.
But they don't matter. All of our batches are blended to consistency. And we do, try and dump our port barrels that we're dumping for that year. So let me back up. Midwinter Night's Dram is essentially our Rendezvous Rye finished in ruby and tawny port barrels. And so when we do dump those barrels, we dump those barrels all together and then pull off of that batch for each day of bottling, and proof down accordingly. So, there should not be any differences across scenes.
So then do you use both ruby and tawny in each batch?
That's correct. And historically, it's always been a majority ruby because we like that brighter, more vibrant, kind of raspberry and blackberry and cherry type note that comes off of that. But the tawny gives us a little bit more of that kind of caramelized, nutty, richer, a little bit more oxidative character as well, coming from the tawny barrels. So using those in different ratios every year helps us, kind of keep that flavor profile fun and different from year to year, so you can look for those different nuances.
So I'm going to give a little bit of a story. You were there, but 2 years ago on our bourbon trip, I had never had Midwinter Night's Dram before. I'd always heard about it, obviously. It's a big, draw for a lot of collectors. So every year we go on a trip through the Bourbon Trail in December, and we have a group of guys, and at the end of the first day, we always do a bottle kill episode where it started with just 3 of us. So we did a bottle kill, and then it grew to that year. I think there was 12 of us maybe. And so one bottle is not going to be that big of a deal. So I think we ended up doing 3 or 4 bottles that night. And the 4th bottle was Midwinter Night's Dram. And we were pretty toasty that night already.
We finished 3 bottles.
And so the worst part about the evening, we started off at Jim Beam.
The kitchen table restaurant.
And we had the hot honey
pepperoni pizza.
So it destroyed our palate for the better part of the beginning of the evening.
I think the first bottle we opened was the sweet wheat that I brought, and it tasted like water.
It tasted terrible.
It was no flavor.
Yeah. And then after about 2 or 3 bottles, we started getting our flavor back.
We opened a Kentucky Spirit.
Yes, Kentucky
and then we finally started to taste something again.
And then so he decides to open up a Midwinter Night's Dram.
I brought a full bottle, open it up at the end while we're playing cornhole or whatever.
Yeah, and we killed it. And it was probably one of my best memories I've ever had on our trip was killing a bottle of Midwinter.
Jason was even drinking it.
Oh yeah, we were all drinking.
Mash and Drum was loving it that night.
Yeah, and we were all enjoying it, and we had a good. But that's probably one of my best memories of the night is that bottle tied to the evening, and it was because the whiskey was really really good. But our taste was finally coming back at that point, which was really cool, and so to finish. With our taste coming back and then, having Midwinter Night's Dram, it was a nice combination. This right here, I just had a nose of this, and I will say that it's not nearly as rich from a nosing perspective as the Prisoner Share, but it's got a lot going on. There's a lot happening inside of this. I get both of the what did you say? What the port and the tawny?
Ruby and tawny port.
Ruby and tawny. I mean, I
really like the notes off of the ruby.
Yeah. The ruby is. Yeah, that's good. It's different, and it's definitely not as dark as the Prisoner Share, but it's darker than everything else on the table.
What sets the Rendezvous Rye apart from the Double Rye?
So, the Rendezvous is a little bit of an older age profile than Double Rye. So Double Rye is a minimum 2-year-old, and then we blend in our High West Rye as well. With Rendezvous Rye, we are using the MGP. The majority portion of it is about 5 to 6-year-old, and then we blend in our High West Rye on top of that.
Is that 95.5?
The MGP, yes.
Okay.
Is there another
and
MGP?
our High West is
there are
80%.
other mash bills, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
That's good. The High West Rye is 80% raw rye, 20% malted rye.
Oh, nice.
Wow. Okay. 80% rye, 20% malted rye?
Yeah, not going to lie. I do like malted rye in the mash bills.
No,
it's
I do
really
too.
good. It was just in something we had recently, Woodinville.
Yeah, Woodinville, yeah. The 8-year that we just had. Malted rye, I think, helps, to me, curb that rye kind of feeling. That Woodinville 8-year rye was the 100 proof that we did. That was actually really good. I don't say that much about ryes, so that's good. This has a little bit more of a tannic note to it, but in a good way. I'm getting some more tannins to it, but it's not like I'm licking like a sponge or anything. It's not super drying on the tongue, but the tannins are evident.
Would that be the difference between working with port and Prisoner?
I think it maybe is more of a factor of varietals for sure. That could be a part of it, but then also looking at with those port barrels, they're all French oak. With what we get from the Prisoner, they are majority French oak, but sometimes there's a little bit of American oak in there too. And so I think I personally see more of that tannin profile come through when we have French oak barrels. And so that's something that we do look to mitigate as we are blending and going through our finishing process.
Okay.
Well, it's not overbearing.
No.
The tannins are there, and having tannins present is not a bad thing.
It adds to it.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. When it's overly tannic, like an Elijah Craig 18 bad version of the single barrel that they have.
15.
Sometimes, so when sometimes tannins are just way too much.
Yep.
But this is the perfect balance of tannins, in my opinion.
It's a good ratio from tannin to rye to port. It's a really nice blend. Yeah,
this is another one of those that I feel like I could sit down with for the evening and drink. I've done it before.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, this is good. This is one that I could sit and just keep having a couple of glasses throughout the night and getting it. It's going to evolve and
tell a story over time.
Tell a little bit of a different story on the flavor profile from drink to drink, and That's what I look for in a whiskey. Those are my favorite bottles. I mean, to be honest, those are my favorite bottles. Yeah, this is good. This is good. What year is this?
It's a
Last year's.
Last year's. Sorry.
2012. I'm sorry. Act 12. Yeah, last year. We actually just started working on the next, I guess, our next release. I guess that would be Act 13. We just started working on that in our blending lab here this last week.
When does that release?
That will release early in October of this coming year.
October. Nice.
Can I ask if you're going to have the same staggered system where you kind of reserve a time?
It typically is always released in early October.
Okay, because I have a friend that reserves a time and comes and gets it, and then sends it to me.
Yeah. The time should be. I think it's that first weekend of October.
Yeah.
At least it's early October. I can say that.
Okay.
And I will say, this particular type of whiskey, fall, perfect time for it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's the perfect time for it because it's got that warming kind of, yeah. It's got like a little bit of a warming note to it. And to me, bourbons like this make me feel like sit around a campfire on a chilly night, have something that's going to help warm you up along with the fire. That this is exactly what I think of when I think of like fall nights. Exactly. No, that's perfect.
Are there any plans to expand on that other varietal that you did with the Act 1 with the white?
The Encore.
Yeah, the Encore.
Look at this guy.
We don't have anything going right now, but we never say never.
Okay.
This guy.
That was a special release.
He's got this encyclopedic memory of things that he just calls on.
I know the things I've emptied.
That's true. That's fair. All right. Well, so let's go ahead and, I know we're right around an hour. Let's go ahead and wrap this up, but I want to be aware of your time. But before we do, you already mentioned where we can find information about the initiative, but also, what about the High West website and or social media?
You can also go to our website too to sign up for our newsletter and to be a part of the whiskey program. So definitely check us out on the High West website, www.highwest.com, and then follow us on Instagram, which is Drink High West.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. Sorry for the change up or the curveball or whatever you want to call it. But no, this was fun. I really enjoyed this year's Prisoner Share is ridiculous.
It's knocked it out of the ballpark.
Ridiculous. You guys did an amazing job with that.
What would Guy Fieri say?
Flavortown?
No, but he has these like things he says.
You tell me.
Hit a home run. I don't know. You hit a home run.
You bring it up and you don't even know what you're talking about. The BouRye was outstanding. The Prisoner Share was, another level. Elevated as JD would say, elevated. That's a good word. We always welcome you on the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on. This was outstanding. I love all this stuff. Honestly, I'm not a huge finished whiskey guy, but the Prisoner Share is ridiculous.
You can't leave the BouRye out. That was fantastic too.
No, that was really good. But finished whiskey, I'm not a huge fan of. But this is outstanding. So
that's why I like them.
Again, I'm going on and on again. Thank you so much for coming on. This will be 2 weeks from now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So. Yeah. All right. So thanks for joining in, everyone, and we'll see you next week on another episode of the Bourbon Hunters.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, guys. Thanks so much.
All right. Well, that wraps up this episode. Thank you for joining in on yet another hunt for great bourbon. Please give us a 5-star review anywhere you are listening. But if you don't, leave us some constructive criticism in the review so that we can better improve our show. But until then, sit back, grab a pour, kick up your feet, and enjoy some bourbon.
Tune in each week. Sit back. Tune in each week. Sweet, kick up your feet and enjoy. Kick up your feet and enjoy.
The Bourbon Hunters podcast has been craft distilled, produced, recorded, and edited by Dude Pool. For any feedback, questions, or episode ideas, please reach out to info@bourbonhunters.com.